University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Here is the voice of Panthers, Scott Royce.
They're all assembled. We welcome you inside this Monday night edition of the Bart Lundy Basketball Show. Hello to those of you watching us. Hello, Mom, on YouTube, and to Mr. Janicki, who, as we found out earlier, watches on multiple platforms. That is what you call a true Panthers super fan. And those of you listening to us at MKPanthers.com, we stream on the Varsity Network. There really is no excuse for missing Panthers basketball or this program. Coming up on the show here tonight, we'll talk a little bit about the road trip that was, one good, one bad. We'll preview the week to come because it is a rather consequential week for Panther basketball. On the court, certainly with Wright State and Northern Kentucky coming to town. And then off the court, it's Hall of Fame weekend. It's also the weekend where the Sweet 16 team will be honored. 20 years already, 20 years since the last Panthers Sweet 16. And we'll talk a little bit about that and the symbolism of that and the importance of the tradition and history of this program, carrying it forward here today. Our guest here this evening will be the redshirt senior guard, A.J. McKee. A.J. is here, and we will talk a little hoops on A.J., have some fun along the way as well. So that's how this Monday night edition of the Bart Lundy Basketball Show sets up. When we come back, we'll get it going with the coach. Stay with us more in a couple of moments. This is the Bart Lundy Basketball Show. Continuing on this Monday night, WM Student Union, Scott Warris, please welcome in Bart Lundy. Welcome back to your show. Welcome. I asked you off the air. I can ask you this on the air. Did you squeeze in a little? Did you flip on the Super Bowl at all? It was an awful game. The broadcast was also bad, but we didn't have to go into that. Did you catch anything?
Yeah, first half for sure. And, the only team to play worse than the Panthers were the Chiefs. So, yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, it was, Liam was going for the Eagles, so he was happy.
Okay.
And so that's, halftime we turned it off. We watched the halftime show.
Sure.
We watched the score to see if they come back at all. Really watched the second half. So yeah.
Now, when I said it to you also, I asked you, would you go to a Super Bowl? Obviously, you're coaching, it's in the middle of a college basketball season. Although, no. But once you're retired and you have the time on your hand, would you attend a Super Bowl? Yeah. All the pomp and the pageantry of it all. Is that a sporting event you check off your bucket list one day?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to take it, I don't know if I should go. Yeah, it's not a burning desire.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other things in the bucket list. I'm working.
What is on the Lundy bucket list unrelated to basketball? I never thought to ask you that.
Well, a lot of travel.
Okay.
A lot of travel. And I've traveled a little bit, but most of it's been for basketball. And I'd like to do a little more travel when whenever that might happen. For just I love history.
Yeah.
And I love seeing new places and cultures. I think Fred Sitzberg,
Yeah.
whose name is on our building over at the Cave. He is, his dream was to go different places and go for 2, 3, 4 months, and then go to another, go to London and live there for a while, and go to Paris and live there for a while, and really get into the culture and that to me would be something that would be on my bucket list. The first time I left Queens, not when I left AJ, who was all mad at me.
Which we will get into in great detail later in the show.
The first time I left Queens, we had a trip set up for great cities. So we were flying into London. We were going all over Europe.
Yeah.
It was like a 3.5-week trip, and I didn't end up taking that trip. I took that job in hiking, but a trip like that, you couldn't know about that. Great cities in Europe, even Asia, like good Asia, South America.
It's amazing. I've only been to Europe once. It's like a high school trip, and when you're that young, you don't appreciate everything.
Yeah.
But still, that the way let's say Londoners call something, oh, this is very old.
Yeah.
And then here in America, we go, oh man, this building's been here forever, all the way since the 50s.
Yes.
No, there are two definitions of old architecture, for example.
Yeah.
A little different.
Yeah.
A little different.
Yeah, I used to really believe that players needed to go and take a foreign trip, not to be educated. Queens was a good place because one of the pillars of Queens was that every student got a trip abroad. It was built into the tuition, and they believed that to be educated, you had to know the world, and to know the world, you had to actually experience some of the world. Which I thought was fantastic, and I always wanted to take teams to be overseas,
right.
Because when those guys, if they go to the NBA, great. If they go to G League, great. But a lot of them eventually will be in Europe or Asia, and to know how to navigate through customs and how to navigate through not being able to speak the language. And I think that's invaluable for players, and I know for me, I didn't grow up to where I got to take a foreign trip. I lived 3 hours from the ocean. I didn't see the ocean until I was a senior in high school. So I think those guys they get to do that, and it's invaluable. But then a little thing called the NIL popped up. The money must be diverted elsewhere, so they're on their own. You gotta figure that out.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I mean, is that? I guess I never really thought of that because those summer European trips for a lot of teams. Over the years, you've heard coaches want that, not just for all the reasons you mentioned, but because it's a week with the team together when they otherwise wouldn't be, and play maybe a couple games and whatnot, and it kind of gives you a leg up on the competition. I'm trying to think, I don't know, what was it? I think it might have been, was it the Badgers Final Four team here with Ryan, or was it Queens Final Four team at Marquette? One of those teams went on a foreign trip, but it was one of those things that the coaches then used as that was an important point.
Back then,
maybe it was Pearl. Did Pearl take the Panthers overseas? Well, anyway, but yeah.
Back then, you got the 10 days of practice before you went on the trip.
Okay.
Well, now those 10 days are because you have summer practice.
Okay.
So the trip and the games are important, but at the same time, like at a place like Milwaukee, there's only a certain number of funds that you can raise. So are you going to now put that toward NIL? Are you going to put $100,000 toward a foreign trip or $70,000 toward a foreign trip? It becomes the bucket that it doesn't matter.
Right. No, the landscape has changed, and that's something that I really didn't think about. Coach, the week that was 1-1, Indy and Cleveland State. Let's start just real quickly, just for a couple of moments, with the win at Indy, 84-80 in overtime, Coach. And I don't know, I said this to you, or I said it to Michael when we talked in the postgame. I don't know if it was, for fans who don't know, the Jaguars are playing on campus right now, and they're playing in a high school gym. They call it the Jungle. It is a high school gym, and that might be doing a disservice to high school gyms. But everybody's on top of you, and you're next to everybody, and Chris Hill's, the SID's hanging off the end of the scores table because there's not enough room for everybody. And I don't know if just the atmosphere added to the intensity of it, but that was a battle on Wednesday night, and I don't know if the atmosphere and the venue added to the overall environment of it, but you guys were able to find a way, which you have to do in conference on the road in February, 84-80.
Yeah, no, I wasn't, I wish we had played a little better, but
Sure.
Our game plan was to wear them down, and we scored the last 7 points in regulation, we scored the last 7 points in overtime. They are a much better team than their record. If you look at the games they've played there and the top of the league, the top of the league has beaten them there, but Cleveland State has a similar comeback that we had. Fort Wayne has a similar comeback that we had. So to win any college basketball game on the road is difficult, but to win against that IU team who really experienced 4,000-point scores on the floor at all times, and they're tough. They don't have a rim protector, which kind of hurts them. They had him here when they played us here. He gave us problems, but they don't have him right now. So that hurts them, but they're a quality basketball team. That's a hard place to play and a hard place to win. So I wasn't down on. I would have been down obviously if we hadn't pulled it out. But our guys showed resilience and grit, and that's okay. You got to win some of those.
The thing with the IU turnaround is it helps that he came from University of Indianapolis, and I think it was four of his guys came with him. There was continuity there in who he brought, and I wonder if that certainly has helped the Jaguars speeding up the rebuilding process when it's, hey, let's get the band back together again and go to IU Indy.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and hats off to him. If Coach Leonard doesn't get the Queen's job, I'd probably bring AJ 2 years earlier. So we had a really good team, and they would have been really good here in Milwaukee. But that's they're good, and but let's talk about the one that we have to talk about.
We do. We won't dwell on it.
Let's dwell.
All right. You want to dwell? We're going to take it up a notch.
I'll dwell.
We'll dwell. Cleveland State. They had, just to set the table for folks who tuned in and out, they had their 13-game winning streak snapped on Wednesday night. So they were going to be an ornery bunch, and they come back home, and they blitzed you guys. I mean, there's other adjectives probably you can use, but it was suffocating at times, and digging yourself a 21-point halftime hole. To your credit, you guys go 12-0 to start the second half. You cut it to 7 on I think 3 or 4 occasions in the second half, but that hole was just too big to dig out.
Yeah, and it's disappointing because we talked about how physical the game was going to be. My guess is that he spent all week saying, Milwaukee beat you guys, back in December. They beat you handily back in December. They are tougher than you guys, and he probably pounded that into their heads. And we came out. That is the worst half of basketball that we've played since I've been in Milwaukee, and that a team of mine has played. I can't remember a worse half. And I watched it 4 times today with staff, with players, with the whole team. So I'm a little cross-eyed at this point. But the disappointing part is we played not only not tough, but we played mindless. And I'll take credit, I'll take the blame for not having us prepared. We kept driving the baseline when we knew that they're going to trap the baseline. We have to go middle. We have to keep the ball in the center of the floor. We kept turning it over and over and over, and then they just physically, a team that takes pride in physically being the enforcer in the game, which is what makes us good. We were there. Just a little kid playing with grown men in that first half. And we came out in the second half and we played like we actually had some pride, and we knew what we were doing, that we didn't play mindless. To be a championship team, you have to resist the temptation to play mindless basketball. And we played absolutely with zero physicality and absolutely mindless. In that first half, you're down 21, you deserve to be down 25, and that's my fault, and it won't happen again.
What was because you're right, the second half was so different, so starkly different. Is that a halftime where it's the guy, you put it on those guys in that locker room to talk amongst yourselves and figure this out? How much input are you offering? Can you shed any light on the dynamic in that locker room? Because from game to game it changes based on coaches giving it to us, and sometimes coaches just going hands off. You guys figure this out. You've been around basketball long enough. What was that dynamic like on Saturday?
Well, it wasn't a pill paint, get into them speech. This is what we did, and this is what the result you're going to get, and you're going to continue to get that result if you continue to play this way. And they were much better. We played the way we had planned to play in the second half, pushing it to the middle, guarding them with some physicality. But then we did get back, and this is a good learning lesson for this group. We got it back to 7 several times. Really, KP missed the one just wide open layup, and then AJ hit the 3. That would have made it 5. So we would have come all the way back to within 5 and probably had a real chance to win it. But then, some bad habits creep up, because if you're down 21, you got to be perfect. You got to be perfect. And we did beat them 2 years ago, down 19. But you've got to be perfect. And they ran a couple of little actions in the middle of the floor that we didn't communicate on. But you've got to prepare, and our preparation hasn't been right. You've got to communicate, and you've got to communicate with the words that we use. So we went over all of that. And so you don't switch when you need to switch, and then we think we have it corrected, and you switch when you didn't need to switch, and they get a 5-point run, and it stems your comeback. And then Staveski is going behind all those screens, and we're not fighting the screens, and we're leaving them wide open. So we watched all that, and we learned from it. They have to solve a couple things. They have to be more positive with each other. They have to forget the palms up. When you have palms up, it's you're showing your frustration or your palms up to your teammate. We have to get that garbage out of us, and those guys have to talk to each other in a more professional, adult way, and control their frustration and be able to problem solve without the coaches solving it for them. And so in some ways, this was good for us. You don't want it to be good for you in February, but hopefully we can turn this into a positive, because it sure was a negative, and we turn it into a positive. And then Jake, I think, said it in our team meeting, and I absolutely believe this. 20-10 just sucks. I don't want to be 20-10. These guys don't want to be 20-10. 20-10 means you're good enough not to suck, but you're not good enough to be really good. And we're on the way to being 20-10. Now, if we can be 22-8 and reel off 6 straight here and have a chance to win this league, these guys will have come together and done what we can do. But this is the best team in the league, and it's about time that we start playing like it and we start coaching like it. And sorry, does that answer your question?
Yes, thoroughly so. As you're talking, I think it was last week when you talked, this is the most talented team in this conference, but it hasn't been the most consistent team in this conference. And that certainly will be the theme. It has to be the theme going forward. We, talked about last year's Oakland team, and they were steady. They were steady, and sure enough, some of them there they go. They win the conference tournament, and that's going to be the case again this season too. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get the thoughts on the week that was. For a man who's played a lot of basketball, he's seen good, he's seen bad, he's seen everything in between. AJ McKee is here, and AJ will join us in a couple of moments.
All right.
Continuing on.
All right.
Team S1 is assembled, and we will be here every Monday night through the end of the season. I think right now the last scheduled show is the first Monday of March. That would be the Monday of conference tournament week. It is hard to believe that we are, what is today? Are we a month away from the championship? A month from now, I think we're in that vicinity. Month and a day away from the conference championship game at Corteva Coliseum. You may remember it as Indiana Farmers Coliseum. What a venue! If you haven't been, come on to Indy. Oh, it's a basketball shrine, the fairgrounds in Indianapolis. Would you please welcome our guest tonight, AJ McKee, to the
Hey,
Right, AJ. You know Coach Lundy as well as anybody in this room.
Yes, sir.
Did he sum it up well? I mean, give us the player's perspective from what the heck happened on Saturday.
Yes, I would say he summed it up well. As a team, I don't feel like we really came out, but we really didn't expect them to be that physical with us. Like, we're so used to being a more physical team and teams trying to match our physicality. I feel like they came out with a mindset that we're going to be way more physical than them, even and when they try to match that our physicality, that we're just going to keep it going and keep our foot on their necks and keep pushing them around. So I feel like Coach Lundy hit it on the head with it.
Is that a situation where you and the players, I mean, the coaches can only say so much for so long before you guys got to take the responsibility, on your shoulders to talk and to kind of work this stuff out, especially because so many of you have been playing basketball for so long. It's not like it's a team of freshmen and sophomores and whatnot. How have you guys kind of talked that through and gone through it just amongst yourselves?
We just have to be able to hold each other accountable. We have to be able to let one another say something to each other without getting in our feelings or going into a shell or just falling back from the team. We have to accept that. We have to be able to take that on the chin, hold our head high, and then go down the next play and make something happen.
I do want to go back to Wednesday night because your defense was stellar on Wednesday night. Will was showing us all the metrics and the analytics on the long bus ride from Indianapolis to Cleveland. I was bothering Will and looking at stats and numbers, and the on-ball defense that you play is some of the best on the team. And you had the game, the play of the game on Wednesday at Indy with the block of the Zelinskis would-be game time 3. Go back to Wednesday night and take me through the defensive performance, the intensity of that game. It was hot.
Shots were involved for me as the player that I am. I have to find other ways to be on the court and be effective, and be productive on the court, and that's playing defense. That's my on-ball defense. I'm a really good on-ball defender, and I take that very seriously. So that last play of the game, I was ready for that. From first day I got into college to now, I felt like I would take that play on head on and still do the same thing.
Coach, again, you've known AJ a long time and you've coached him now in multiple places. Where has his defense improved the most from way back day one to get him to this point where he's your best?
He just understands, actions, knows how to, if a guy can shoot it, whether to go under or over, how to navigate through a ball screen, a dribble handoff, cross screen. I mean, he's seen it all, and it's one thing to watch things on tape and have coaches tell you. It's another thing to have that bank of knowledge that he has in his head. He's always been tough. I mean, from the time I watched it with Team Charlotte and Jeff McGinnis, and you guys may or may not know Jeff McGinnis, but they were known for their hard-nosed defense and their full court pick you up, turn you, and which obviously fits right in the way we play. He's always had that, but now he can think the game, and he's much more cerebral. He's a professional defender. Zelensky, we can say whatever about him. Maybe that dude's going to play for about 20 years
Yes.
and make about 1,000 threes in professional basketball. And he had his hands full with AJ.
So, you alluded to this, Coach, in the first segment or so when we talked about if the succession plan at Queens goes differently, a good chance AJ is here at least a couple years ago and he's with you from step one. I mean, can you kind of talk about that dynamic of reuniting here? And I know, AJ, I'll get your thoughts on it in just a second, but from your coach's perspective on being able to reunite with a guy to do something hopefully special here with the Panthers.
Yeah, the thought process going through that one, I get the job here, decide to leave those guys. There were some guys that were really angry with me. AJ was not one that was as angry. I think he understood the business a little more than those guys. And but I didn't really. I would have tried to bring pretty much our starting five if Coach Leonard, who was the associate head coach at that time, had been with me since day one. If he hadn't gotten the job, at that point, it was kind of still kind of want to bring some guys. I didn't think AJ would leave because AJ's from Charlotte. His mom's there. It's been him and his mom forever. And then, you know, we just kind of sat back as things unfolded, and AJ got another year for COVID. You know, then we decided to leave. It's like, okay, he's going to definitely leave Charlotte and leave the city, which I thought was bigger than leaving Queens. I mean, he can answer it for himself, but I thought him leaving the city was bigger than him leaving just the university, because, you know, he is Charlotte. So, you know, obviously we were thrilled that we got a chance to you know, get him here. You know, couldn't worked out better for a good party out.
How hard was that to, like Coach said, leave that city, leave that area? That's you, that's your hometown, let alone school and the team.
I don't think, now when I left the first time, it wasn't that hard because at the end of the day, it's always going to be time for a change. And I just felt like it was time for a change. Like, I had a stellar run at Queens. I was there for 4 years. And just to come reunite with Coach Lundy just could be the biggest thing to go on in my career. So it wasn't really a hard decision to make to leave the city.
What's been the toughest? Just the mom and the friends and the family and the network that you have there?
The toughest has probably been away from my mom. That's probably the biggest thing because it goes from her being at every game to her having seen a game this year.
I was going to ask if she's been able to.
Not yet, but we're working on it. I want to get her down here closer towards the end.
Sure.
When the games get big and when the bigger games come.
Tournament time?
Mm-hmm. So that's probably was the biggest thing, just leaving my mom and knowing that it's just her down there, because I have 2 other sisters, but everyone has their own life, so just leaving my mom down there by herself, that probably was the hardest thing.
I want to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about some of the on-court stuff and the pieces fitting, and we talked with Danilo when he was on the show last week about his experience at Miami in the NCAA tournament, Final Four, and you know a thing or two about postseason basketball and winning in the postseason, and how that knowledge and how that experience can help this team this year right now. We'll take a break. AJ McKee, Bart, Lundy basketball. live on YouTube. Hello to all of you listening at MKPanthers.com as we stream there. And on the Varsity Network, AJ McKee is our guest, our special guest here on this Monday night. And I do want to talk about the dynamic, AJ, because so many, the unique thing of this roster, and we've talked about it all year, is how individually experienced everybody is, but how collectively it was still, a new team. Individually, y'all have played a lot of games, but together, it's the first year together. What's the state of that dynamic? I mean, I know the ups and downs, and we've talked about trying to get that consistency going, but when you look at all those pieces, the talent that is there, where is the state of getting all those puzzle pieces to fit perfectly?
I would say the state is right around the corner. Like we hit some bumps. I feel like it's scenarios that we need as a team, the scenarios that we need as a team that's going to play out in March. I feel like we got those early, so now when we go into those games in March, we're going to know, like, all right, we turn the ball over, let's go back, next play. That should be our biggest thing as a cohesive group going out is next play.
Hey, Coach, you and I have talked about that on this show, on the pregame shows, and interviews and things like that, where the talent isn't in question. It's just a matter of, and I guess every coach, I mean, that's the challenge every year. New team, old team, young team, veteran team. These are the pieces. How do you get them all to fit? Working around injuries and all that stuff, and have them playing their best. And to your credit, you and your staff's credit, through the first 2 years, February, March, your teams have been headed in the right direction. But getting all those pieces to fit, I guess that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I think AJ hit it on the head. We've got to be consistent with each other and learn, but also along with those lessons that we're learning together, they have to really embrace the team, what we stand for, getting better every single day, just 1%, because it does add up, and the preparation for each game. Whatever happens in the game, the preparation is just as important, because the things that you learn, just like AJ becoming a really good defender because he can stack the knowledge of those actions he has to guard, the team collectively will stack knowledge of how to handle different situations. And that's where teams get better and better and better. You're gonna have the injuries and getting healthy and a little bit of chemistry stuff. At this point, I think you're at the point in the road with the season where a lot of that stuff falls away. Like, we're at the end of the road. Like, you guys can't be jealous of each other. You can't, your numbers are what your numbers are. Your everything. Some of that just falls away that you were dealing with in November and December. Now it's okay. We've learned these lessons. You guys have learned about the league. This is what we have to do. We're making tweaks as a staff. We made some tweaks today on how we play, how we attack the league, what the league's trying to do to us. And then you continuously get better. Like tomorrow, if tomorrow's practice isn't on point, then we've missed an opportunity. And we've been good the last 2 years because down the stretch, they have gotten a little bit better each time. And the margins in college basketball are so small that if you get a little bit better all the time, it really does add up.
Well, I mean, year one, from the moment you got in here, was stack good days.
Yeah.
And that's what you're looking to do now in February of year 3. You mentioned the conference, and I'm just curious, AJ, going through this Horizon League for the first time, and now seeing everybody for the second time in your first year here. What do you think of the league? What do you think of the conference? What do you think of the teams in this league and what they present?
I think this league is very, like, teams want to play defense. Like, I played a lot of different teams from a lot of different conferences, but when I come to this conference, like, teams actually want to play defense. Like, they want to be that team that the announcers talk about, like, oh yeah, this team's going to play defense night in, night out. So that's probably the biggest difference from the last conference that I was in and this conference is teams want to actually play defense. They want to actually try to get a stop.
Yeah, it's interesting how Coach and I have talked about it over the years. you play Northern Kentucky, you play in Oakland, you play at Cleveland State. When you beat them, you really feel like you've accomplished something, because those are just three off the top of my head. They just make it hard. And every pass, every shot is contested. Every little thing is so difficult against them. So when you go to Wright State and you go to Northern Kentucky, and we'll see them at the end of the week, and you beat them both, you feel like you've done something because of the defense they played, right, guys? Yes, sir.
I do feel like that was part of it too. We went into that game, we were 5-1 against Cleveland State since we've been here.
Right.
And we were 4-0 going into the Fort Wayne games this year. We hadn't lost the Fort Wayne since we've been here. And you do get a sense that we'll be okay. We're going to